All right, so hopefully we can all see. There we go. So here's our start screen for Google Earth. So it's just earth.google.com. On this front page, there are a whole lot of links along the top here. So different versions of Earth, the different resources available as well. If we scroll down, we have some help videos on how to create using Google Earth. And if we keep scrolling, we can look at some of the features. And as we go down, there are some really cool functions down here. So there are the where in the world is Carmen Sandiego resources. So there are a bunch of quizzes that use the old Carmen Sandiego game to jump around the world and find stuff. A whole lot of information from Voyager and from Earth. EarthView is a really cool desktop app which changes your wallpapers every now and then with some really amazing Earth imagery. If we keep scrolling down, we have the different versions of Earth we can use there. There are some examples of telling a story with Google Earth, so you can click through those and see some really cool examples of it being used in the classroom. And then down the bottom we can click on Launch Earth, or of course that's up the top there in this big blue button. So we can click that to launch Earth, and off we head into there. So wait for a little bit for the start screen to load. When we're having areas of high demand, sometimes this takes a little bit longer to load, or if your home network is struggling a bit, sometimes it takes a little bit to load as well, because there is a lot of imagery that's being brought in from Earth to your computer. So I'm doing this today on a Chromebook, so it shows you how this will work on pretty much anything you've got to use in your classes. So yeah, I'm constructing all this on a Chromebook today. So what we'll do is when we start up, I'm going to take you through a look at this home page. So this is the start area of Earth. We'll have a look at the left-hand side menu. We'll have a look down the right-hand side controls as well. So up the very top here is 3 bars which will slide out a menu. Now, to be using Earth well, you should be logged in, because that will allow you to share and create a whole lot of content. If you can't log in up here, it will be because your school doesn't have that setting switched on. So you need to talk to your admin person to make sure that it's switched on in the admin controls. Down here are a whole lot of the links. We can switch photos on and off, and there is some feedback down here. If you click on that feedback link, it will allow you to submit a feature request or to give some feedback on some things that are currently going on in Earth. Maybe you'd think to yourself, it'd be great if we could do this. Then clicking on that feedback will allow you to give some feedback on things you would like to see in the future. So that's what happens when you pop that out. There are some settings down here as well we'll quickly go through. We can turn on animation. So when we fly to a place, how smoothly we fly in, the speed, what happens when you get to a place. So you can choose whether it orbits, or whether it has some cinematic animation, or whether it has no animation. And you can play with those. So those are what happens when we get to a location. I'm going to leave it on orbital because I quite like that. It spins around as you arrive somewhere. We can have a look at those settings as we go down later on. There are the different buttons we can switch on, how big your cache is. Now, the units of measurement are important. I've changed mine to meters and kilometers, being in New Zealand, and latitude, longitude, and degrees, minutes, and seconds. It's figured out I'm in New Zealand, and I can clear all my history and reset everything to default. So that's in the settings in there. You can have a little play with those if you want, remembering that we can click on save to get back. So on this front page, that was our menu up the top there. Next one down we've got a search, so we can simply click on here and we can simply search and fly to a place. So what it'll do is it'll fly in, and as we get there, if we zoom in closer, it will rotate around. So we can choose to zoom in or zoom out using our trackpad. We can use different keys to fly around, and I'll show you where the shortcuts are for all those things. So that's our very first one, is our simple search. Then when we do click on search, if I do Halloween, it will look at anything to do with Halloween. Okay, and so we can click on the enter. It'll bring up all the things about Halloween around the local area. Okay, so that's in our search there. So click on that. There's all the Halloweens. We click back to close that again. So that's our search. Pretty handy for going places. Now you did notice when I got to that search, if I actually add it to a place, down the bottom of here, we can also see there are some Voyager stories that come up in our search. And if we have, if we do volcanoes, we'll do the national parks. There are also Voyager stories down here that we can have a look at. And we can also go into that in a bit more detail. But these are the Voyager stories, which we'll have a look at in a bit. So this search brings up a whole lot of content that is on Earth, not just necessarily the place. Okay, so that's our search. If we jump down to the next one, we have Voyager. Now, Voyager is a whole lot of content that has been created by Google Earth, by the Earth team, and also by a whole lot of partners. So if I click on Voyager, it'll open up this. So we have current ones or new ones at the top, or ones that are just interesting. As you move down, there is a whole more new content and interesting content. Sometimes you'll get content in here that's relative to the time of year. So if you're looking at Halloween, as I was looking at before, you might get some Halloween ideas through here, or New Year's, or Chinese New Year, for instance. So lots of different things in here that are current or just new. There are some quizzes. So a quiz is something you can work through, and the students, as they step through the quiz, there are a bunch of questions and answers they can answer, which will allow them to go on to the next place. Okay, so that's what we look at our location when we first get to Voyager. Now along here are a whole lot of links. So there are the games I talked about before, the quizzes. So there are a whole lot of games and quizzes we can play in there. Now if we see one of those we really like Tutankhamun's mask caper, we can click on it to open it up, and it will open up on our main Earth panel here. And all we do is just simply click, and we'll begin the Carmen San Diego game. Now, if you want to share that, you can just grab the link that's up in the URL and send that out to people. So just by simply grabbing that, you can copy it and paste it into, say, your Google Classroom post, and people will go direct to this page. Okay, so you can share anything using that URL at the top. I'll just jump back into Voyager. So those are our quizzes. There are some layers, which is where we've got a lot of data that's been pulled into Earth and then placed as an overlay. So current hurricanes and tropical storms from the National Hurricane Center. Some historical stuff, and there's a really cool one on 10,000 years of volcanoes around the world. Okay, so it's a whole lot of data shown on Earth. Go back to the top here, we can click over to education. And there is a whole lot of these that are tagged with education. So there's one here about the slave trade, Cook's Voyage. So lots of stuff in here that is tagged as an educational content. Blue Gold is a fantastic story about the Great Lakes and about how they were looked at as a cool ecosystem, and some local kids got involved in helping to look after them. So, excuse me. So there are many things there tagged in the education space. So that's under the steering wheel, and then into education over the side there. So these things are created by partners. So it says on here who has created it. It's all high quality, really well looked after, really well curated information. Okay, so that's our Voyager. Moving down, we have our dice. This is our I'm Feeling Lucky dice. You can just click that, and it will take you somewhere random in the world. Now you notice when we get to a place, we open up this knowledge card over on the right-hand side. And this knowledge card is direct from Wikipedia. It's just because it's a free receptacle of information. We can click on this and go to the page or fly to that place. Down the bottom are some areas that are linked to that, or there is this button here that says Add to Project. And we'll come back to this project idea in a minute. So this is what we want to focus most of our time on today. But I'm Feeling Lucky, I can click it and it'll just fly you anywhere random in the world. One good way I've seen this used is one educator saw use it to do what's called an Earth race. He clicks it 4 times. Students write down the places they go, and then they have to figure out how they're going to get there, or how far apart they are, what the travel time is. So there's lots of things you can do around there. So that's into Wildhorn, Switzerland. So that's the I'm Feeling Lucky. The next one down is projects, which I'll just skip over at the moment and come back to. When we move down to the next one, we have the map style. So we can style the map in the way we want to see it. Clean means it has pretty much nothing added to it. Exploration has a whole lot of labels. Everything gets really messy and has everything on there. So if we click that, It will bring up labels, borders, roads, transport, landmarks, and water. Now up in here, it's not too bad. But down in some areas, it gets a very, very cluttered map. So I like to just keep it as exploration. Or you can have it tidy clean with nothing on it. You can choose your own look and feel and custom. You can switch on 3D buildings. So you can turn those on and off. You can also turn on animated clouds. So the animated clouds, if I switch those on, and I zoom out of this here, as I zoom out and get a bit higher up, what we'll see is that the clouds start to appear. Now those clouds are based on the last 24 hours of cloud data and overlaid over the world. So these are what's happening up in space at the moment. So it's a nice idea if you're having a look at weather maps and then you're having a look at how this actually looks on the ground. We can see what's actually happening up in the atmosphere there. So that's using the clouds layer. We could switch those off if we want a more clean look. We can also switch on grid lines. So our latitude and longitude can be switched on and off. As we zoom in, the grid becomes more and more precise. Okay, so that's our grid lines, latitude and longitude lines there down the bottom. I'll leave those off for today. And that top one we had up there was the 3D buildings. I'm just zooming in here. If I go zoom into Christchurch. Now what we can do is as we zoom in, we can choose to switch on the 3D buildings, which then means we can move around the map and have a look at those 3D buildings. Okay, so that's what we can play with 3D buildings. I'll switch those off again because I don't want to be using those today. And it takes us back to what it is. Now sometimes the 3D buildings are a little bit older than what's currently on the ground. So if people have a look at something and go, oh, that's not there anymore, you can try switching off the 3D buildings and see if those are no longer there. Now our last little link on this side through here, after we've looked at our layers and made sure our map is how we want it to look, pop that back in, we can click on the ruler. So if we click on the ruler, what it will do is we can choose a starting point and we can measure with that ruler. So we click on that and it tells us that distance is 254 meters. Now we can also, let me just finish the end there. Always forget to do that. If we drop this down, we can choose the distance, how we want the distance to be measured. In centimeters, meters, kilometers, or nautical miles. Then we have imperial, and there's also smoots. So smoots is a method of measurement based on the height of a young man called Smoot, who was used as a measuring stick in a college prank in the States. Have a read about it. It's a fantastic story. So you can measure in areas of smoots in Google Earth if you want to. Now, if we're using this measurement tool, we can also use it to find areas. So if I'm going to start a fresh one, if I come from here and I think, what is the area that city block covers, or the area of our school, or the area of our country if you want to. When we click that, it closes the shape, it gives us the perimeter and the area. So a nice little application for maths, also a nice little application for figuring out the scale of an area as well. So if you have a scale of a map, you can jump on here, find the actual size or distance of an area, and then figure out what the scale of that map should be. So that's using the ruler at the bottom of the menu there. So if I just close that now, I'm going to zoom back out again. So down on the right hand side, if we click on this top one, it will fly to where we currently are. If you have your location shared within your browser, it will fly you to your location. Some browsers don't have the location switched on by default, and so you need to switch that on to make sure it goes to where you are. The next one down is Peg Person. If we click on Peg Person and pick them up, then you'll see these blue lines appear. Those blue lines are the Google Street View. So where the Street View car has been, that's where those blue lines are. So if we drop Peg Person down there, what will happen is we'll fly into Street View. So there we are, we're in Rex Street in Christchurch. So we can fly into Street View and we can move around by clicking on those arrows and go for a little walk around. Okay, so that's using Pigman there. Jump back to the map now. We can switch on and off our 3D imagery. Okay, so 2D flat, or we can have 3D images switched on. Now if I fly into a different place, so if I have a look at Ruapehu, let's fly to that. I'm going to close that knowledge box while I'm there. Okay, so if we look at this, so we're currently on 3D because you can see you've got the option to go back to 2D. What we can do is we can tilt the view, we can zoom in. So if I want to have a look at this area in here, I can zoom in and we actually have 3D imagery of that area in front of us. So really cool for looking at natural features, for going places where we may not necessarily be able to get to. At the moment, while we're all in lockdown for COVID, we can't go anywhere. So this is quite a nice way to get out of our chairs and have a bit of a look around. Okay, so we can zoom in and out. We can zoom them, we can spin them around, and we can also tilt. So this is using Control and the arrow keys. We'll tilt. If we use the side arrow keys, we'll spin. And we can look around at these different places in 3D. All right, so that's using our 3D and 2D down the bottom here. If we want to be facing north, we can simply click on this little view here and spin it around so we're facing north. Okay, now if we double click this, it will jump it into this point here, and we can grab and spin a bit more easily. So we could be looking from a certain location. If we double click that again, it will put the Earth here back as our main point, and you can drag the Earth around and go to a certain place on it. So if I decide I want to have a look at it, it'll pop up. So I've just clicked on there. So we're going to jump to the middle of the ocean. So we can zoom around using the Earth as well. The last two, of course, are the plus and the minus, which is our zoom in and zoom out. I'm just going to close that knowledge box up there we were before. So that's our left-hand menu and our right-hand controls. Now down the bottom here, we can also see that there are these two. So we can draw a line on the map, and we can add a place mark to the map as well. And those will save because we're logged in, and those places will save into our drive. Now what I want to have a look at now is this button here, which is our projects button. If I click on our projects button, it will open this up. And what it says is it gives us the option to create a new project. Now when we create the new project, what we can do is we drop this down and it gives us some options. We can create a project, or we can open a project from Drive. So if you have the beginnings of a project you wanted to share with your students, you can share it from Drive to their Drive. They can choose to open it up and continue working on it. So you might give them a template, a bunch of different places they need to find out about. Students can also share this back with you, and they can share it with each other. Google Earth now creates a Drive file that is shareable just like any other Drive file. We can create a KML. KML is called Keyhole Markup Language. So that's the language that your Google Earth is written in. So you can create one of those. And that's generally for going back to old classic Earth. You can import a KML. Now, if you search for KMLs online, you can find lots of them and import them. So if you just search volcanoes.kml, you'll find a whole lot of stuff people have shared that you can use. You can import one of those from your Drive. If you have a Drive file of them, again, you can share them with students to have a look at. And you can import it from your computer if you have it saved locally. But what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at creating a project. So if I click on that, it will open my new project up here. So you see it says up top here it was auto-saved. So that's being saved into my Drive. I'm going to give it a title. Let's call this Hawaii Adventure. Why not? Adventure sounds good. We can give it a description here. I should probably spell that correctly. Go, let's give it a capital H. and that is our title and our little description. Up the top here, I can choose to click on this and share it. However, I like to generally share any other Drive file. So I can just type in some names. I can give them edit or view access. If we click on the advanced, again, just like any Drive file, we can choose to share it in lots of different ways. So you can grab that link up here and paste it to our classroom, or you can email it to people. However you like to share your links with your students, then you can do it with that. We can prevent editors from changing access, which is always a good one to click. It means that people can't add other people as editors. Okay, so that's our sharing settings there. Up in the top, we can share it just like any other project. We can delete it, and we can click our three dots or our skinny snowman, and we can export. If we do see one that we think is a little bit inappropriate, we can report it as well. So that's how we start our project. Now what we're going to do is we've got this box here. If we click on this, we will add a new feature. So all the things here are called features. Down the bottom is a tutorial you can watch to remind you about how to do this. So if we click new feature, we can search, we can add a place mark, we can draw a line. I'm going to start with a full screen slide. So if I click on this, it will open up my editor. I'm going to give this a title. So this is the full screen page that starts when you arrive there. Let's say Hawaii's Magical Islands, I guess. My description goes here. Goes here, and we can choose a background. So it's either going to be a color, or I can click on here and I can choose to upload an image. I can choose to do an image search. I can have YouTube from my Drive, from my photos, or from a URL, so any web page you want. If I just do an image search to start with, let's just do Hawaii, do a search. What's that looks like? Oh, I quite like that one. Let's go that one. So we click on that. It also gives you the reference for the image down the bottom, so you can reference it if it's an image you don't own or one that was not able to be shared, but most of these should be shareable. Let's click on that. Now what it'll do is it'll add that image to my background. Okay, so there we are. We can choose to edit that if we want to change it, or we can bin it and choose another one. I'm going to scroll down the bottom, and we can have a whole lot of other things we can do. And again, another tutorial down the bottom to have a look about this. So if I go preview presentation, that's going to show me what this looks like. So you see we have our table of contents down here. The first place, so this is our intro slide. You see there is my title down here. Here is my description box I'll put in there. So that is my first slide. You see this has also created my table of contents, which I can click backwards and forwards in, but because there's only one, I can't do that yet. This here pops up to give us the table of contents, or we can jump direct to another feature. So now we click back. We click back. We now see I have that first one there. Okay, so that's our first slide. So let's jump into a place. We can go new feature. We can search. Let's go Waikiki Beach. So we'll fly us to Waikiki. There we go there. So that's on the main beach. Now, if I want to just add this as it is, I can just go over here and click Add to Project. So I'll do that because it's the easiest way to add. The place title is Waikiki Beach. We're adding it to that project. So it will ask you which project you want to add it to, and then we'll just go save. So now you'll see my project, there is Waikiki Beach just there. So that is a really simple way to add that to our little collection of places. I'm going to close that knowledge card so you can see a bit better. Now if we decide we want to zoom out a little bit further, I think, oh, that's probably a better view. Actually, I would like that to start as a nice zoomed out one there. So what we can do is we can click down here and we can click add a place mark and add some place marks to those things. Now if I think to myself, that's the one I'd actually like this one to be. It's a much better view. I can click my pencil and it opens up the editing for that first place. Now you notice down the bottom here we have this capture this view. So we've gone back to my original. If I zoom out a bit and I move it up a little so I can see Diamond Head as well, and I'm going to capture this view. There we go. So now that view has been captured as that location. We have our pins here, so you can see it's got a great big yellow pin. If I decide I don't want it to be yellow, I'd quite like it to be green. Let's choose our green. There we go. So now go to green. We can scroll down and we can set the different views of this, but we'll come back to this one. So that has edited that first one there. This information here has come in from that Google search. We can click here to replace that, and we'll have a look at how to do that in our next one. So if I go back, see we have our two places now. So if I clicked on to view my presentation, I would see those two places. But what we're going to do is we're going to go for a new feature. So let's go new feature. Let's go search. Now if we're heading up the coast, I'd like to go to the Polynesian Cultural Centre. There we go, Polynesian Cultural Centre. Again, it zooms into where we are. We can simply add this to the project if we want to do that. But I want to have a bit of a closer look in there. So let's add this to our project first of all. We're going to save it. It's now opened up here. We can click our little pencil and we can edit that. So let's see how we're looking at the moment. Okay, so the first thing I notice is I'm going to change my pin to a green one, or we could change it to a different color if we want to have a color coding. Now I'm going to come over this way a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in a bit on the cultural center itself. And I'm going to capture this view. So that doesn't tell me a lot about the Polynesian Cultural Center. So what I want to do is put some more information in that box that pops up on the left. So if I click on this replace to add our own description, images and videos, I'll click on replace, and now it'll open up this box here. So this gives us what sort of info box we're going to have. So the info box here, we can choose our size. Go a small info box. It's called the Polynesian Cultural Center. I'm going to click here and look for a Google image. I'll click on that. That looks like quite a good one. Let's add that. So that will add a picture here. Now you'll see I can also go here and add another. So you can add multiple pictures. On the side, I want to do that one. So that will add to there. Now we can put some information about this, the Polynesian Cultural Center here. So if you had students researching a place, they could find a whole lot of pictures and they could put a whole lot of information into their info box there. If I go preview my presentation, so there's my info box there. Here's our information we put down the bottom. Here are our two photos we put in there. Okay, so we've got our photos and we've got our information. You see now down our table of contents, we have 3 places. So we can go through those different places. They zoom out and they zoom back in again. Okay, so we can zoom to our new place. Info box pops up and that shows us this place here. If we go back to the main area and I want to think to myself, I'm going to add another place here. So this looks like the cultural center here. There's a whole lot of areas of the cultural center up through here. So I'm going to grab a place mark. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to select this location here and I'm going to save it. So let's call this Polynesian Show. Save that. So there's my Polynesian show here. If I click on the pencil, if I go back to here, I can also go to YouTube. So if I go Polynesian Cultural Centre, and I do a search, and I click on this one, because I know that's a good one. So that then puts a YouTube clip into that box. We can put some info here. There we go. We're going to have a small info box. We can choose that. Maybe we might have a larger one because it's a video. It's saving. So auto save. You do not have to click save. It will auto save for you. If I preview the presentation, this is what it looks like. So here is the Polynesian show. Here is the YouTube. If I click that, it will simply start playing my YouTube clip in its own window. So it opens up there and it'll start to play. Okay. So we can put lots of different types of resources into this project. Now, one other thing we can do is, if we want to jump into this area again, I'm going to drag it across a little bit here, because I know that Brigham Young University is a large university in Hawaii. It uses money from the Polynesian Cultural Centre to help to give its students scholarships. And I think it's a pretty cool place to have a look at. So it'd be quite nice to have some street view in here. So what I can do is I can grab peak person there, lift them up and fly them over. Now the blue dots are where people have added street view imagery. The lines, which are up the top here, are where the street view car has driven. So the blue dots are from people, the lines are from street view car. So if I move down to here, what I can do is I can hover peak person over one of those dots, drop them, and we'll now jump into street view there as well. So if I think that's a pretty cool picture, I want to have that on mine there, then I can simply go click this here and we'll capture that view. It's called BYU University. Man, my spelling is terrible today. And I can click save, and you now see that appears down here as a street view location. So let's just have a quick look at that. If I go present, I can click my table of contents and jump straight to BYU, and it jumps to a fully immersive, fully controllable street view. There's the guy who took the photo. So you can add street view into there as well. I click back again. So those are different things you can put into this project. If I click new feature and I can search or add a place mark, I can draw a line or a shape as well. So if I decided I want to draw a line, grab that line here, I can simply add a line through here. If I'm looking at where the main road is, okay, I can do that. Should get the idea of what I'm doing there. And making sure I click into there. That could be the H1 freeway. And I'll go save. Okay, so I could have choose to make it as a shape if I wanted just to purely show where the area of Waikiki or where Pearl Harbor is, for instance. I can do that as a shape. So you can add those as a shape. Now when you're down here, there is the H1 freeway. I can switch that on and off, so I don't see that the whole time as well. Okay, so if I want to just switch that on once I get into the presentation, I can click the little eye and switch it off. So we can add shapes and lines to our presentation as well. Now one last little thing I'm going to have a look at here is this new feature. I'll search for a place. I'm going to go Waimea Bay. Let's do that. It will fly me to Waimea Bay. Or I could have simply moved up here on the map and clicked on the Add to Map feature down here. So I'm going to add that to my project. Waimea Bay sounds good because that's where we are. So Waimea Bay is down the bottom. Let's click on the pencil to edit that box. Here's my information box up here. Now what I can do is I can use the advanced controls down here to change the heading. Okay, so if I want to change that 90 degrees, I can just type in 90 and that will spin around. I can change the tilt. I might want to make that 45 degrees. Our latitude, longitude, and altitude, let's make that 100 meters. And once we go back out of there, if we go preview, it will show us that we have spun it, that we have tilted it, and we're sitting up above 100 meters. So by using those controls, we can spin it around by just typing in a series of headings, so 90 degrees, 45 degree tilt, how far away you want it to be, and how high above you want that peg to be. Or we can use our arrow keys to spin around, so we can zoom out, or we can zoom back in again. If I come down here by zooming in, I can find a view that I want. I'll spin around here using shift and arrow key. I can tilt it down, and then we can jump back into our presentation and capture that location as well. So there we are, zoomed right out. So that's where it's currently sitting. So we can zoom in on our Waimea Bay. Okay, and we can zoom around and find everything about that place there. So you can have a good play with those controls. I'm going to just go back into the edit to show you one more thing we can do as well. Now up the top here is our info box. We can click replace and we can put anything in here we want. So we can put some photos. But what we can also do is down here in our information box, we can add a hold of, we can add some text, we can bold it. We can also click on this. Now that will add a link, so we can add a web link in there. So you can jump out to anywhere you want. So that link could jump out to a document which has some questions on it, for instance. It could have a document with some more information on it. It could have a Google Forms quiz perhaps. So that there you can use to add links in there as well. So you might jump out to somewhere else and then come back into your presentation. So if you don't want to paste the whole pile of information, you can just link to something there. You can remove the formatting and change the paragraph style. And in the three dots here, you can also switch to HTML. If I click that, what it does is it opens up an HTML editor. So you can, in here, you can paste a whole lot of stuff. And the thing you can do in here is you can paste embed codes. And embed codes give you content from the internet into here. So you could use it for things like a podcast or a link to another page that you want to work inside here. I have seen Google Forms and put in here as well. But another thing you can do here is you can grab some Street View imagery and pop it in here if you want to. Now I've already shown you how to use Peak Person to get into showing some Street View imagery, but you can also use an embed code just inside here. So if I come out of this and have a look at Google Maps, now if we go into Google Maps and I type Waimea, it will zoom us over to, oh no, let's go Waimea Bay. It's be a bit more specific with my my search. Here we are in Waimea Bay. We can click on the satellite view. Okay, we can also do just like what we did before. We can grab our Peak Person and fly over here. Now you notice there are some dots out in the water. When we look at that, it pops up there. There's another one up here that someone's added. There's a dot. And as we hover over it, it will open up. Or we can jump over to the Street View car professional imagery, and you see there is some on the beach as well. So if I want to see what that one is on the beach, let's have a little look there. Drop in and we open our Street View just like we normally do if we're using Street View from Maps. And that's quite a cool picture. I think to myself, I would quite like to have that picture sitting in that box. So I can go 3 dots. And what we have is we have what's called an embed code. Now, if you can find embed codes on different websites, on blog posts, on anything you want to share in here, then you can grab this embed code. So you can simply copy it. I'm going to go back to my Google Earth and I'm going to paste it into here. Okay, now you don't need to know anything about what's going on in there. Some of your students may know exactly what that all means. And there's little things where you can play with sizes and things in here. But if you have a student or a person who understands what HTML coding is, they can have a bit of play with this box and make some pretty cool stuff happen in here. So I've added that embed code into there. I'm going to go preview the presentation. And that's what we've done here is we've got the box around the outside, and this bit in the middle is where that embed code is working. So we can do exactly the same thing we did before, straight from Street View. But this one allows you to put anything into this box that has some HTML embed codes. And that's a great little thing to show people, because some people look at that and go, that's awesome, I know exactly what I can do in there. Or you might get some people that go, I have no clue what that is, and I'm just going to leave it as it is. So that's how you can use embed codes to have a bit more of a play with these boxes here. So if I go back, so basically what we're doing is we can add a new feature. If we decide we get to this point and we want to put a new full screen in there, we can drop another full screen in there as we go through there. Okay, we can grab these and drag and drop them to reorder them if we decide that we want those earlier. So if I want that H1 freeway right back at the beginning, maybe I'll drop that up here, and it's now going to be place 3 in our presentation. Okay, if I click on present, let's have a look at what we've created. So here is our intro slide. We can have a whole lot of descriptions in there. We can click forward here, and it'll take us into Waikiki Beach. Now, if we wanted to, we could make our next place zooming right in there if we wanted to. So we could head up to the Polynesian Cultural Centre. There's our YouTube video I popped in there earlier. We can click on that and watch it. Go forward to the next one. The Polynesian Cultural Centre. There are our photos we put in and our information we'd found out. So that if you give a student a place to find out about, they can drop in some photos, they can put some information in the bottom of this box, they can make that info box bigger and smaller. We jump forward. It's going to take us into BYU University, down to that Street View I just grabbed. And then our last stop is up to the North Shore to Waimea Bay, where we have that info box. We use the HTML code to get that. And you could have anything in here, remember, you wanted that has an HTML code in it. Okay. So then we go back to the beginning and we have our presentation all sorted out. We can then go up to the top here and share it with anybody we want to share it with. Or we can click on the 3 dots or the skinny snowman and export it as a KML if you want to do that. You don't need to, it lives in Drive. So in your Drive, if you search for Hawaii Adventure, you'll find a Drive file. That Drive file can be shared with students and they can open it up and have a look. You can share it as just a view file, so all they can do is just view it. Or what I could have done is just popped these places into the presentation, shared it with my class, and said each person was going to get a different place, and they can then work through that as a collaborative way of putting some information onto a map to show where things are. So it could be all around the world. It could be around your local area. It could be where their favorite places are in the world. So this can be a collaborative activity as well. Everyone can work on that collaborative activity together. So hopefully that'll give you a few ideas on how you can use Google Classroom use Google Earth in your classroom to create these collaborative projects. So what we'll do is we will finish up there. And